guys, welcome back to Belly Acres Kitchen. Hey, you ask and you shall receive. So we've had a lot of requests for a tamale recipe. Now, tamales are not hard to make. There's just a lot of steps. So it seems like it's really hard to make. It's just a lot of small steps to get to the end result. So it is time consuming. I'm not saying that it's not. Very time consuming. So you want a couple of days, especially if you're doing this by yourself or just with one or two other people. You definitely want a couple of days to get everything done. So I'm going to take you guys kind of step by step. So it's going to be over a couple of days because it's, I don't know if you guys can see the clock behind me, but it is 12:30 in the morning, Wednesday morning, before Thanksgiving. I'm going to go ahead and put my roast to cook, so then that way it can be done tomorrow, or I guess today, later today. So then that way I can get it shredded and get started on making tamales. But you guys, we found, speaking of butt, we found butt roast for $1.94 a pound. So we got a pretty big roast. This one is actually almost 8 pounds. It's 7.86 pounds. My original recipe for tamales is based off of 2 pounds of pork. I've done this different in the past, and I do have a video out of making these, and it's a little bit different. But I'm going to make this in the roaster tonight. I'm just going to put it in the roaster and cook it. Normally, I put it on the stove in a big pot and I boil it over a couple of hours and then I strain it. But if you have time to roast it the night before, that's going to work probably better because you don't have to babysit it so much. So this is bone-in pork shoulder roast. So yeah, let's get started. All right, since we have a more in-depth recipe out, I decided to do just a voiceover and put everything in time lapse, and we'll go from there. So to put the roast in, I'm doing 2 whole onions and a whole head of garlic. And then I go ahead and add chiles in there. I'm using the New Mexico dried chilies right there. I'm not even seeding them, just throwing them in for flavor. I always poke the roast so then that way all the juices can kind of permeate the meat. I put a few cups of water in there, and I just use salt and pepper for seasoning. Guys, it's the next morning, and I wanted to check on this roast. It has been cooking for about 7.5 hours. About 7.5 hours at 300 degrees in this roaster. And look at this. It's just falling apart. So this is really definitely what we wanted. I'm not trying to piece it up right now. I want to get it out of the broth. But look at that. So I'm going to attempt to take this out, put it on a platter to shred it up separately, and then I need to drain all of this out because I need all of that broth. I'm going to need that for the mole, and I'm going to need it for the masa. So, but yeah, look at that. If you have time to, look at that, it's just, okay, quit. I'm going to make it fall all apart. If you have time to roast it overnight, I think that's the way to go. I feel like it'll be a lot more flavor too. All right, that roast came out of there beautifully. I'm just putting it in a pan so I can shred it up a little bit easier. And then I'm just taking the big chunks out with a slotted spoon and then straining that broth. All right, look at this. Look how rich that is and how glossy it is with all the fat. It's beautiful. So that's what's going to give flavor to the mole and to the masa. I've had tamales before made with masa where they don't use the broth, and it's so very bland. So this is what elevates it. Y'all watch the meat come off the bone.
Look at that.
I mean, slick.
Can I take it to Mayday?
Yeah, you can take it to Mayday. Maybe
The claws are out. Those bear claws are awesome for shredding roast or, I mean, chicken, all of it. I used to put it in a mixer, like the standalone mixer, and let it shred it up, but I found that if you leave it too long, if you walk away, it turns to mush. So that was awesome. Now Rusty is putting the corn husks in that little pan. We're going to fill it with hot water and weigh them down. Those need to soak for a good hour or so before you get started on rolling them. And then look at Rusty, man. He is just such a trooper. He is seeding all of those chiles. Now this is going to be for the mole. We are using 20 New Mexico chilies, 8 Ancho chilies here. You can use California chilies instead of the New Mexico chilies. You can also use Guajillo chilies instead of the Ancho chilies. All of those are interchangeable. And if you want spicier tamales, use a spicier chile like chile de árbol. I think those are pretty spicy. Look at this. So I put the broth in the refrigerator overnight, and that just helps so much to be able to get that fat out of there, because that fat just gathers at the top and you can just scoop it out and throw it away. You do want some of the fat in there just for the flavor, but you don't need it super greasy. Rusty's still at it. Man, that is such a tedious task right there, getting all the seeds out of those. You know, you're putting it in the blender, so it's all right if you leave some. So now I'm getting things ready for the mole, the rest of the stuff. I've got 2 onions, 4 cloves of garlic. I'm going to be using 4 tablespoons of chicken bouillon, 20 peppercorn, 12 whole cloves. I'm going to be using all of that. And then for the roux, it'll be 6 cups of lard and 4 cups of flour. I didn't actually use that much because it was already way more mole than I needed. But anyway, so just getting all of the garlic and stuff chopped up. Now, I felt sorry for Rusty. I sat down with him and started helping him seed the rest of those. He was doing such a good job. He's getting all those seeds out, but it is a tedious task, you guys. So, especially when you're making this big of a batch. So once we get them seeded, we will rinse them, and then I will put them on the fire to boil them. Did you see that big sigh on Rusty? So I'm using the broth that I set aside for that. Now I only used half the broth for that because I'll use the other half for the masa. So I've got those boiling. Now while those are boiling, I'm going to go ahead and get the lard ready for the masa. I have 6 cups of lard and half a cup of baking powder. All right, those chiles are getting tender, so I'm adding my peppercorn and my cloves to it. Now here I added that half a cup of baking powder, and then I'm just going to whip that. All right, you guys, so look at this. Look how beautiful fluffy that is. Looks like frosting. Don't taste it because it's not going to taste like frosting. But we want that fluffiness. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides to get anything that's kind of hiding there on the sides, because we want all of it to be fluffy. This is going to make mixing this into the masa so much easier. So now if you look at this, these are very soft now. So I can go ahead and shut this off while I get the Ninja ready and get everything ready to get these poured in. After that cooled, I went ahead and dumped that in. It doesn't have to be cool, just not as hot. Dumped that in, threw in all the rest of my ingredients. So that was the onion, the garlic, the chicken bouillon, and then just run it through the blender. And this is my Ninja, so oh my gosh, it's just so amazing. But if you have a high-powered blender, you can just run it through that. Here's how we're going to test this. So basically what I'm trying to do is have you ever gotten tamales, and like the red pork tamales, and you're eating the tamale and then in the meat you end up with like having to pick out skins from the chiles? I'm trying to avoid that. So this is how I'm going to test it. I got a pretty good little helping there, and I put it on a white plate. You can see that there's still some graininess there, but nothing like like you're not going to have to, nobody's going to have to pick it out of your teeth. Yeah. Here's my next test. I'm going to lick it. Moving on to the roux. Now, I ended up making way too much mole, but I didn't even put 6 cups of lard in here. I put, I don't know, 4 or 5 heaping spoonfuls. And then we let that heat up, and then I added 4 cups of flour. That was probably a bit excessive, and that's kind of where I went wrong. So I added more lard, and this can turn into something, you know, where you're adding more of this, more of that, but it's all right. Just keep going at it, keep working at it. You want that consistency to be a little less than pancake batter. You want that flour to cook down. You want it golden, and you want to be able to smell that smell of cooked flour. Now, my skillet was way too small for the mole that I needed, so I did have to put it into my Dutch oven instead because it was a little bit deeper. So I just added that mole. Now it's really thick. It's a thick paste. So now we're just adding water, and we're just going to continue to add water and stirring and stirring and stirring, because if you notice, I do have the flame on, so just keep stirring so it doesn't stick to the bottom, and just keep adding that water until you get the right consistency. So that mole, you want it gravy. You want it to be, just think of brown gravy. You want it that consistency, because you want it to really stick to the meat, but, you know, not too watery. So I'm just adding more and more water there. I was going to say on the chile, if you don't have a high-powered blender, you are going to have to put it through a ricer. But look at this. This is the consistency you want. Look at that. It's like gravy, really. And like I said, this is way more mole than I needed, but this mole will keep. You can put it in the freezer. Not real sure if you can it or not, but I am going to look into that. So now I'm just going to add the mole to the pork. Now, I had put the pork in the refrigerator overnight, so it is a little bit stiff where it was cold, but adding that hot mole in there, it's just really loosening up. You want to be careful not to make it into mush, but just keep adding that mole. This is a messy business, guys. You're going to have drips, you're going to have stuff, so make sure you're wearing, you know, apron, and just be prepared to clean up the mess. So now we're just kind of sampling it, because we want to make sure that it does have the right amount of mole. You don't want a bland tamale. Now, I do think that the peppers that I had were a little bit older. It didn't have the flavor that I am used to, the robust flavor. But okay, so moving on to the masa, I just did probably, I don't know, 2 pounds of maseca, and then I put some salt in it just to help out, and then I added the rest of the broth that I had from the pork, and now I'm just adding hot water until I can get the right consistency, and I'm just mixing that masa. Now, this is time consuming and this is labor intensive, but once you get that masa to where you want it, start adding that fluffy lard into the masa, and you just mix it until you know, you feel like it's good. Look, both hands, let's get it going. It does, man, you're going to get a shoulder workout here. So once we get this worked in, we're going to test the masa. And the way you do that is you put them on one of the corn husks and see if it peels right off. How you're doing that?
I just put a little bit on the corn husk. And if it peels right off, it's not peeling off, baby.
Okay, so we're going to need more manteca. It's coming right off my hand. It's kind of rough on both sides. Sometimes you can get them.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, it's crunch time now. People are showing up and we're rolling tamales. We're putting them in the pressure cooker. So they will come up to pressure. They will cook for about 20 minutes, and then they have to depressurize. So you're looking at about an hour start to finish on this part of it. But that's all of the corn husks we had. So that's all the tamales that we made, that we had ready, I guess. We still have more corn husks, but we didn't have them soaked. And like I said, people were already showing up, and we had plenty of other food, but we made a good probably 5 dozen of tamales. We did put the rest of the meat and masa up, put it in the freezer so that we have a jump on Christmas tamales if we're making tamales for Christmas. We're actually going to our daughter's house for Christmas, so who knows, they may just be extra tamales. So always good to have an extra amount on hand. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. Let's see this. We're not even mic'd up anymore. So you've released all the pressure? I'm always like, oh, I'm so worried. Okay, let's look. Here we go. Holy Hannah.
Holy guacamole.
Those are beautiful. We all got fogged up. We're fogged up.